big topic. And today we've got a big guest on. May have heard Lindsay Venn before, but she and as part of Insulin IQ and Venn Integrative Medicine, that is an expert on the area of not only GLP-1s, those glucagon-like peptide-resistant agonists, but also the alternatives and the best alternative that is out there if you're looking for a natural solution. So if you're interested, maybe it's something that you're on, you would like to learn more about it, you want to check in and listen to Lindsay as we start this call and jump right in. We're going to turn it right over to Lindsay right now.
You're always too kind, Trent. Thank you so much. And thank you to the crannies for their story, because it's a fantastic story. And we always appreciate the testimonials of where people can get with this. So let me share my screen. As you guys know, I'm very presentation heavy. It makes it hopefully a little bit more educational for everybody when it comes to the topic. And so like Trent said, tonight we're deep diving into GLP-1 hormone. Like he said, you can find me either at Insulin IQ, where I work with Ben Bickman and several others, or Venn Integrative Medicine, just for me. So first, GLP-1 hormone. And for anybody who doesn't know, when I'm saying GLP-1, like Trent said, I'm talking about all these new medications. The Mounjaro, Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, semaglutide, tirzepatide, there's a variety of names for them. Those are the agonists, but what I'm talking about today is the actual hormone that is produced in the body naturally. And this is a really important hormone that should never be villainized. It's essential for life. It's essential for everything that we do. And it's something that we really want to bring to the forefront as a beneficial hormone, if we can do it naturally and in a way that's beneficial without some of the negative side effects. So first of all, it is a peptide hormone, and peptide is another hot buzzword that you'll hear nowadays, but it's a peptide hormone, just like insulin, just like leptin. There's several peptide hormones that are familiar to most of you, but it is made in the gut naturally for everybody. It does several things that are very, very important. Like Trent said, to help reverse insulin resistance, it will improve our insulin sensitivity. It will shut down that food noise that he was talking about with the Unimate, for example. It'll help lower some inflammation in the body, which is a primary driver of insulin resistance. It'll lower glucagon. Glucagon is the counterpart to insulin. Insulin tries to bring blood sugar down. Glucagon tries to bring blood sugar up. And so to have lower glucagon helps with blood sugar regulation. And then also it's going to improve our satiety levels. But again, I really want to point out, and this is a strong driver in the conversation today, there's two things I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the hormone GLP-1 that we produce in the body versus the agonist of the medications that you can take either injectably or orally. Agonist is the opposite of antagonist. And so agonist works to mimic something versus an antagonist would work against it. So these are mimicking what GLP-1 should be doing. They're not the true hormone. They are a synthetic agonist to GLP-1. So where does the agonist fit in? So it's not a peptide hormone that is made in the gut. I crossed that off intentionally. So this is a hormone that you can inject, or an agonist that you can inject, that is what we would call an exogenous, coming from outside of the body, that you can give yourself to do all of the same things: the insulin sensitivity, the food cravings, the inflammation, the glucagon, and the satiety. So they are beneficial because they do all these things, but they're not natural. And that's the point that we're trying to drive home here tonight. So where did they come from, and why did we start using them? Well, way back in the day, I've been a dietitian for over 30 years, and I started using some of these drugs probably 20 years ago in patients with diabetes and prediabetes, because they are beneficial for all of those things I just checked off in the list. They were a diabetic medication that has morphed into something else, let's say. So back in the day, the drug that we used very commonly was one called Bydureon or Byetta. It was an injectable, just like the ones we have today, but it's a different formulation and it comes in a lower dose. And so it is a different medication. So here you can see it's exenatide, which is different than semaglutide, which we have in things like Ozempic and Wegovy. And so they are different. They were used for different purposes, and they had very different results. The patients that we had on things like Bydureon back in the day didn't have these massive weight loss results that we're seeing today. So we get into now, and I hope this picture doesn't offend anybody, but everyone sees them all day long, every day on any social media. The weight loss piece of this has far overtaken the diabetes benefit when it comes to what people are focusing on. It has been just astronomically promoted by all the big speakers in the world. So the current medications that we're focusing on are these top 4 are the ones. So Ozempic and Wegovy are what we call semaglutide. That's the generic name for it. And Mounjaro and Zepbound are tirzepatide. The difference between these medications is that Ozempic and Mounjaro are specific only for diabetes, and Wegovy and Zepbound are specific for weight loss. They did this, the FDA approved this because they knew they'd be able to sell more, in my opinion, but they did this to target different audiences. The piece I want to keep in mind here is like Ozempic, for example, it has a 2.0 milligram max dose per week. Wegovy, for the weight loss, has a 2.4 milligram max dose per week. And I find it very interesting that the max dose is higher in people that are just working to lose their weight versus people who are trying to cure a chronic disease. But I'm going to point to these numbers later, so I wanted to point them out here a little bit earlier. The point that I like to drive home when I'm talking with my patients who come to me, I have at least half of the patients I see, if not more, come to me for weight loss. That is their main driver to come to see me. And when I have these conversations, I give them full informed consent. And I'm going to say, okay, if you just do diet and exercise, this is what you can expect. If you use supplements, this is what you can expect. If you use traditional medications like metformin, this is what you can expect. Or if you go on to these injectables or even the oral medications, this is what you can expect. And I would say at least 95% of my patients that are on this suffer with constipation. It's a real prominent problem for my patients. Nausea and vomiting are also extremely common when they're on these medications, but even more severe complications like gastroparesis is when the stomach actually